Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your wisdom, your genius, and your joy. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 26 years. Through 2 businesses as a success coach and a business strategist, and prior to that, an entertainment publicist and a talent manager for 2 decades. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic to you and for you, but you will live the beautiful life that's meant just for you. You'll come to learn that following your joy is a life and a business strategy. Listen in for inspiring entrepreneurial stories and solocasts that illuminate how by trusting your intuition, you'll create a fulfilling result. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. All right, well, welcome back to Follow Your Joy podcast. And, a sweet reminder for the new year. Follow your joy means listen to your body, your feelings, and especially your intuition for joy, because joy acts as a navigational metric to pay attention to, especially working as an entrepreneur. So what that means is when we're paying attention to what brings us the most joy while operating our businesses, we are doing what is meant for us. And it's, by the way, in your genius zone. So I aspire for you to listen to your intuition first, and then use logic, mindset, strategy to put legs on that intuitive direction, right? That's the action. And now you're living the life meant for you rather than, again, logic, right? First, it's automatic. We do that as human beings, right? We're kind of trained to do that. The default is go to logic, go to practicality. And I'm recommending you do the opposite. That becomes secondary, especially while we're running our businesses. And instead of, again, relying on outside sources for answers, look inside, right? Look inside, follow the intuition, which is the whole premise to this podcast, is highlighting these really intriguing, compelling stories. And wait till you hear this one coming up with my guest. It's really the power of our intuition. And on top of that, following our joy. It's our joy that is that metric we need to be following, not some statistic, right? About making some decisions, if you will. It's just kind of a general rule. Okay. So rely on your intuition. And what I, recommend that you do is, let's say you're sitting at your desk or you're standing at a stand-up desk, whatever, and you're working and maybe you need to make a decision, right, in the moment. Literally stop what you're doing. Stop the busyness. Take a deep breath and ask your intuition, ask your heart, what's the next step? Or should I XYZ? And give a few minutes for that to resonate and give you an answer. Okay. It's literally stop, breathe, ask the question to your heart, not your head. All right. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's obviously a lot more to that. And it's also part of coaching that I do and helping you how to recognize what intuition is versus what I call ego. That's metaphysical terms for fear and worry and doubt and all of those negative feelings, which tends to feel, your ego in metaphysical terms tends to feel threatened. When we listen to our intuition, It's all about our evolution, and the ego gets threatened by that. Okay. Very good. So know too that intuition is always, always in your best interest and for the good of all. It will never, ever cause harm to anybody. Right? So, ladies and men, well, you've got some fantastic intuition. But ladies, we're the queens of this. And I'm really, really this year, put this on your goal list. Yeah. Is really learn to tune into your intuition. Or if you're already doing that, level it up. Right? Level it up. Because again, our intuition, it's giving us answers to what's for us, not anyone else. What's for us, opposed to, again, leaning on outside sources for an answer. Okay. So very good. Speaking of listening to your intuition, that creates a series of remarkable results. I have a very special guest today who is beautiful inside and out. And she's a native and lifetime resident of Dallas, Texas, and has spent 20 years in an advertising career working as a television, broadcast, and digital marketing executive. She also served as the president of Alliance for Women in Media's Dallas-Fort Worth chapter, and even more, which is what we're going to mostly talk about today. She's the founder and director of Single Parent Advocate, a nonprofit organization with a mission to educate, empower, and give hope. And hear me out on this. I love the mission. It's a message that we can choose to love when love is not what we have received, help others as we help ourselves, and leave a positive and productive legacy for our families and community. And that we are whole just as we are, even with a single parent family. Isn't that beautiful? Look, I resonate with this completely. I was a single parent, raised my son for many years, so I understand all of that. You're going to be emotionally moved by hearing how she weathered the storms of her life, as always in a positive, classy, faith-driven approach. I really admire her for that. And you'll find her story intriguing as it is inspiring in how she turned her challenges into a message of hope and solution. And I'm honored to have her here to talk to us. So, Stacie Martin, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Marla. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's an honor.
Well, ditto. So, all right. Before we start, I like to share with the listeners, if I know the guest, I like to share how we met.
Oh, that sounds fun. Everybody will like that.
Right. So not only is Stacie a dear friend, but she definitely was a client. And we met. I was a speaker for WIPA. This is during the pandemic. It was June 2020. WIPA is a national wedding industry organization. And I did a webinar, right? It was, like I said, smack right when it first started, June 2020. We're all in lockdown. And Stacie had attended that webinar and soon became a client as a result of that webinar. So we worked together for about 8 months between 2020 and 2021. And she was also a member of my virtual creative roundtable group too. So we've kind of traveled the road together the last 2 years. Yeah.
It's been awesome to have you be a part of my life and my business.
Yeah. Well, likewise. It's always, it really, it's a blessing. And I'm super grateful, right, to have you, to have the clients in my lives. And it's a blessing to be able to do the work that I do and be involved in people's lives. So let's turn this over to you. And my question is, you have a compelling story. Tell our listeners how Single Parent Advocate came about and what happened in your own life that inspired you to create this, mission-based organization?
Well, I would say, first of all, I was someone who was very corporate and had a strong dedication and career in media. I sold airtime and specialized in digital marketing. I was very, very happy doing that. I did it from, oh, I still do it with my for-profit business, but I worked hard and enjoyed my career. And in 2008, which was not, the end of my career in corporate media, there was a huge market contraction, and many media executives were laid off. And it was very, very difficult across multiple industries, of course, back then to replace your job. And at the time, I had been a single mom for about 7 or 8 years. I had a home and a car, and mortgage to keep paid, and a son that needed to be raised. And I was very, very, very obviously disturbed is an understatement, And I was searching. I found myself, first of all, in the corner crying, wondering what the world, why did they choose to lay me off? What did I do wrong? And I kind of turned in on myself. But then I also listened to my heart about how when I was looking for assistance to help stretch the dollars until I could get reemployed, I fell into a gap. And I had a choice to spiral into fear or to try to have some self-control and some hope, and maybe chutzpah. And I felt this burning in my heart. That's like, I need to do something. I cannot waste this season of my life. And so how that manifested, how I allowed it to manifest, is that I founded my advertising agency, Martin Marketing, and I founded Single Parent Advocate, and I've changed ever since.
Yeah. So was there something in your upbringing, perhaps around, I think around your father, was there something in your upbringing around single parents? I think he was for a little while before he got remarried. So it's like, where in your life did that ring true about being a single parent?
Well, I mean, if you went to my childhood, I I had a mother that was, let's say, mentally disabled, and my dad had his hands full with me and my two brothers, and his own entrepreneurial business, and we all had to get our bootstraps on and try to go to school and run the family business. My grandmothers were very involved in our raising and our upbringing. And so they took turns, coming to help my dad and my mom take care of the house, take care of us, and keep the family going. And so I have a tremendous amount of heart and respect for what he did in our lives to give us all he could.
Yeah.
And I know without my grandparents or people who came alongside him, things would have been very, very different.
Yeah. Ooh, well, and he was. I mean, he was essentially like a single parent. And so.
And that's, something, Marla, I've learned along the way. It's been 13 years since Single Parent Advocate was founded, and Free Martin too, but I know we're focusing on SPA today. Um, you know, many single parents, they don't arrive at being a single parent all in the same way. People have the death of a spouse, or a spouse gets a disability, or a co-parent. There's divorce and disease and all kinds of disasters, and sometimes decisions we make that bring us to a place where we find ourselves parenting alone. And the pressure that comes from that can send us into a place where we're not listening to our intuition. We're unable to do what you talked about earlier about, slowing down and breathing and opening our eyes to alternatives and things that could be options. Because when we're in emergency mode, we put blinders on. We get into fight, flight, or freeze, right? And that is not the place where you can come up with the most options for yourself, your children, and your family and those you love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, then we can go further, it's bringing in our higher power. I mean, this is,
Mm-hmm.
as I said,
Absolutely.
you and I are both very faith-driven women. Uh, and yes, it's intuition and it's our higher power to lean on is, oh my gosh, especially in those times of major stress and major fear, to be able to soften those edges, get away from that, to make smart choices, especially being a single parent.
Well, I have to tell you, that when I talk about that burning fire in my heart,
Mm-hmm.
it was straight from God in my book. I shied away from it. I'm like, okay, I'm just being emotional, or I'm just being idealistic, or I dismissed it. But then the more I prayed, the more I looked for help, the more that light kept coming back. And so the day I founded Free Martin, it started burning really bright in my heart again. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to obey you. And I asked, how do I found a nonprofit today?
Mm-hmm.
And that it was a very real strong presence.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't by accident.
Yeah. Yeah, and you definitely found it through, I mean, this, if anything, this is your intuitive story. You followed that intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that. What was going on again that you intuitively heard this start a nonprofit?
It didn't come out that way at
Mm-hmm.
first.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I had been, in my church, I had a single parent co-ed class that we all, supported each other. We had picnics and potlucks and, all the things. And so every time we got together, it was kind of like a family reunion. So I'd already been really connecting to single moms and dads and kids and creating a community where we could all lock arms, because really, and that's important regardless of what type of family or community you have. We're not meant to be isolated, I don't believe. It's hard to have a fulfilling life and be healthy when you're isolated. And so, that being said, I the voice in my head was, don't waste this moment in time. Don't let this go to waste. And I would, like I said, I'd be like, okay, you're just full of yourself, but I believe God was relentless in saying, no, I mean this. I mean this for you. I mean that this is going to be something that I need you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got confirmations along the way, um, that I was doing the right thing. And then once I kind of obeyed that, people came along that knew how to build bylaws, that knew how to file for the 501c3, that knew how to build a board of directors and raise money. And it was not a skill I had. I had been working in corporate media for a long time. So establishing 501c3 nonprofit was completely new. And it was a miracle. It was founded in approved by the IRS in 6 months' time.
Wow. Well, that's again the when you're in the right place, right time, doing what you're meant to do. I'm a believer that it's not supposed to be a struggle. It's
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like all the pieces fell into place without too much strife.
Well, there's always strife that you bring on to yourself,
Mhm.
right? Um, the sleepless nights or the,
Mhm.
in some cases it's not a job loss that causes us to be inspired or to listen to our hearts or our intuition or to our higher power. Sometimes it's a good thing, right? And then we need to be weighing our options about a lot of good things and where should we lead
Mhm.
ourselves to go. And so I feel like, breathing and pulling back and pausing, the power of the pause, right? It's really important to know yourself, take time to feel where your excitement comes from. Where do your eyes light up? Where is that heartburst going to take you? Because the yellow brick road is not always uh, the road right? The road is where you feel safe. The road to living in an intuitive place takes brevity, it takes obedience, and
Courage.
it takes certainly courage and kindness to yourself
Mhm.
and kindness to others as you learn out loud. I love learning out loud. I'll say it all the time, I'm learning on this, but here's what I see so far.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to be transparent about that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, follow your joy,
Yeah.
right?
And
Like
I
you
do
said,
get a lot of joy out
of
of this for sure.
course. Well, you said you really clue into what lights you up.
Hmm.
That's exactly what, I aspire for you in those. It is follow the joy. If you're not following the joy, what are you following? All right.
That's a really good point. Even today, um, with both of my businesses, I'm very, very excited each time I do one or the other.
Mhm.
And but if I get stuck, like writing some content, or I can't seem to get things going,
Mhm.
I really enjoy following up with a family or talking to someone online.
Mhm.
Just what a privilege it is to
Mhm.
be allowed in someone's life,
Oh,
in someone's intimate life, who we are, where we come from, what we're going through. And so whether or not I'm working on an event or I'm working on, finding out who needs furniture or um, someone wants to donate a washer and dryer to a family, or
mhm.
someone needs a scholarship and I need to go raise the money for that. When I get back to that, I find myself getting centered, and then it powers my other work.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
It's like it's like the little engine in my heart is fueled by doing and giving to others.
Yeah. Fabulous. Well, and that leads to a good segue to the next question. What brings you the most joy in your work with SBA?
Well, I think it's exactly that. It's at first it was we had 25 families and their kiddos, and now we have over 400 children we support and all of their parents. And there are generations within our community now in the North Texas area. Um, and I think when I get to see them and I get to spend time with them, they add to me so much love and There, of course, everyone is appreciative of all of our sponsors and donors who make all of this possible. Holding hands, hugging, locking arms with somebody who has been trembling
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hold you back when you're the one trembling.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a wonderful thing. Lately, what's been coming to my awareness is that many people in the media who have been my peers have walked similar paths, maybe, like I said before, not in the same way. And I think the person I have been is meeting the person I've become. It's really emotional for me because I felt like I had to compartmentalize for a long time. Like, okay, like I just need to keep the single parent advocate over here, keep it in its place, and then, you know, do my work that I've done my whole career. I think taking off the mask and saying, you know what, I did this on purpose, right? I founded a business that is based on my skill set, and that business has a cause, right? It has a cause that's very near and dear to my heart because of what me and my son went through. And really, to your point, my family before, it goes pretty deep into my DNA. Maybe that's what it is, Marla. Maybe it's I get to do what I know and I get to grow with a community who I deeply, deeply care about. And that is all appointed, I feel, by God.
Absolutely. Our purpose in life, it's all about good for all. Everybody
Mm,
grows, everybody evolves. So
yep,
yes, you're appointed through your higher power. That was the message. Don't waste a moment of your time, which led to then you going, oh, I think this is the space I want to play in, right? Which resonated with you in your life. And it's all about, and this is my take on evolution. I firmly believe that the purpose, in life, our purpose, all of us, is to evolve. And that always includes listening to your intuition, which leads to taking action. That's the good for all, right? And that's a great example of what you just said about what you are obviously getting out of SBA. You're giving to these families, but you're getting the growth and the love and the support and such, right? Also.
absolutely.
Mm.
What's been happening, is as we get not only the families, we always have this tradition, words of wisdom, and we share them, and then we create T-shirts with, the quote of the year on the back, and we all, wear them. But the sponsors and the business people that come alongside me are also incredible people, and they just by the nature of leveling up with them, I learned so much. And it can be soft skill oriented, or it can be more, you know, EQ oriented. It's like both sides. It's like when I got to be in your training, there were just some blind spots, right? And we all have them. And just, everybody's got a different blind spot. And I would say whether I'm learning from a family, or I'm learning from a volunteer, or uh, a, a donor, a board member, it's absolutely a stance I choose to keep.
Right.
Yep.
Love that. All right. So based on, your, life experience, for the creatives that are listening today, what key advice can you give to them?
I would say to think about the need or the opportunity to have a point of differentiation in your work. It's very meaningful to me to be able to say, I and my company have a cause, and that cause is single parent advocate, and it's the families and the communities that we support.
Mhm.
And didn't start out to be my why. Media and marketing and all of that was my chosen career, and I do it and I love it and I love the people in it. I'm very dedicated to that. To have a cause that extends beyond my skill set into my life,
Yeah.
like being raised in that environment and then later becoming a single mom
Mhm.
and having faced, a different set of circumstances, but kind of in the same bucket, right?
Mhm.
So that's my opportunity to do a give back. And sometimes it gives back to me in ways that I would never have expected.
Yeah.
And being a little, if I had the hindsight, I'd be a little bit more bold, a little bit less apologetic about, moving into this. But
Mhm.
definitely my advice to my fellows out there would be, look into your heart and find out a way to support someone or some organization in a way where you're building a positive and productive legacy for yourself, your community, and your family.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is, create a business that has a brand, a mission, right? Attach yourself to a cause, greater than yourself, greater than your business. Right? Oh my gosh, I have a whole one of my speaking topics is about this very topic about branding with a mission based purpose. So fabulous. Great advice. Yeah.
Well,
It's
I think the marketing side of me says, okay, that's a great platform, right? That's a great platform. But when it's personal,
mhm,
it's not a platform.
mhm.
It's fuel.
Yeah.
And I that's why I say, it's not, oh, I'm going to give 10% to the American Heart Association.
Mhm.
Now, that's for me because my heart burst, if you will,
Mhm.
relates largely to single families. But if your heart burst is the American Heart Association or somebody like that, then wherever that spot is, where the
Mhm.
spark kind of
Yeah.
turns to a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Find a cause that's close to home. Find a cause
Yeah.
that you resonate with always, always, always. Because now it's authentic. Now you have the fire, if you will, that you're talking about, the fuel. Um, yeah, good advice, of course, 100%. All right, my dear. So to wrap this up, where can our listeners get in touch with you? And is there anything that you want to, share about what you're currently doing that you need support in with SBA? Mhm.
So right now, we are working on our golf tournament. We have each year at National Single Parent Day, which is on March 21st for all you single moms and dads out there. March 21st is your day. And I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back or give a pat on the back to a friend who's a single mom or dad. And we're going to be wanting people to come and sponsor that and come play golf. So if you happen to be in North Texas that weekend or want to come along, we will be working on that from now until that day. Our website is singleparentadvocate.org, and you can find information on the golf tournament. There's an events tab there. We would welcome you to volunteer. There's a way to volunteer, a way to support our work. And then we also launched a podcast. We have a podcast that is live. I have a co-host named Daryl Moody. He's a single dad, and he is in Orlando. And we publish once a month, twice a month. When we meet an interesting single parent that either has incredible words of wisdom or has overcome quite a bit to make a great career, we'll bring them on And also, a lot of times we'll applaud and give the floor to someone who was raised as a single parent. And so, if you're someone that has a message for single families in that area, we'd love to have you on our podcast. And you can find us there at singleparentadvocate.org.
All right, terrific. And we'll definitely put this in the show notes as well as you're on social media. So you're on, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. We're everywhere. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and then all the channels for the podcast itself.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
Oh, thank you too, Marla. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and always a good message. Me knowing you in your life to support your mission and your cause. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here, and everybody, thank you for listening. Until next week, as you work and live, what do? You always follow your joy, because why? Success leaves clues. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening from wherever you are listening, and we will come back to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening in. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my 3 free downloads to up-level your business and your life. How about you take a screenshot of this episode and tag me on Instagram by sharing your highlights of what you learned today? I'd love to connect there with you. Until next episode, take care.